Perfect. So we are so pleased to have you with us today. It's so great to see you again. Again, for folks in the room, I'm Mike Piwowar. I'm with the Executive Vice President of the Milken Institute and also an advisor to Propy. So excited to have a conversation with Senator Lummis. She has been one of the true leaders in the pro-crypto, pro-blockchain, pro-AI, pro-Web3 members of Congress forever. She was one of the, if not the first pro-crypto member of Congress and has been a great leader there. So my first question to you is, there's a lot of excitement here in the room about what folks are saying is the first pro-crypto administration in the history of the United States. I'd love to get your thoughts on the election and what that means for the crypto environment.
This is an absolute game changer for the crypto environment. Let's start with Bitcoin. You had President Trump speaking at Bitcoin 2024 and announcing his support for a Bitcoin stockpile. You had RFK, who will be participating in his administration, supporting a Bitcoin stockpile. And of course, I followed up with the legislation on the same day to implement a Bitcoin strategic stockpile. That will embed America with the kind of digital assets that are a great store of value and means of exchange. So I do believe that that bill now has legs. Whereas had the election turned out differently, it would have not had any legs to move forward. So I'm delighted because I see that as an opportunity to shore up the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. And then moving beyond just Bitcoin into other digital assets, we're going to, I believe, be able to get some legislation passed to embed stablecoin as the on-ramp and access between fiat currencies and digital assets. Furthermore, one of the key game-changing races was in Ohio between the now Senator-elect Bernie Moreno and outgoing Senator Sherrod Brown. Sherrod was the chair of the Banking Committee. He was very hostile to digital assets, to blockchain technology, to Bitcoin generally. And there's a lot of skepticism about AI in Congress, which is ill-founded. So having Bernie Moreno, who has implemented a business to put auto titles on the blockchain, is going to be a game changer for the U.S. Senate. We have someone who has implemented successfully what the Propy business model is implementing in the real estate space. Then let's move on to AI. I'm on the Commerce Committee also, in addition to banking. And just before our August break, we had 9 bills that we marked up in the Commerce Committee related to artificial intelligence, when we don't even know what artificial intelligence is. In my view, the Congress has no business legislating about things of which it has no knowledge and legislating out of fear. So I want to make sure, and I believe now that we are positioned to allow, at least on the civil side, the civilian side of artificial intelligence, allow innovation to occur before we regulate, and then let Congress focus on protecting AI on the intelligence gathering and national defense side of the spectrum. So this election was an absolute game changer for blockchain, for digital assets, and for artificial intelligence, all in the positive direction.
Oh, that's great. So a number of things I want to follow up with you on. The first one is in terms of the state of play in the Senate, right? So you got, as you mentioned, Sherrod Brown, one of the anti-crypto, sort of AI people is gone. It's highly likely that someone like Elizabeth Warren, for example, might be ranking member of the Senate Banking Committee, but Republicans will be in the majority, and so Senator Tim Scott is likely to be the Senate Banking chairman, and President Trump has made passing legislation a priority, so that's going to be moving forward. The Republicans do have a majority in the Senate. but it is not a filibuster-proof majority. There are some things that can move forward on reconciliation bills, which is a way to do it, just a simple majority. But most of the crypto stuff is likely going to need bipartisan support. You have been incredibly effective at reaching across the aisle at working with folks on the Democratic side who are pro-crypto. Kirsten Sinema was somebody you worked with very early on. She's now left the Senate. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who just won re-election, is still there. When you look across the aisle from folks, can we get to 60 votes on this? Is there momentum for this on a bipartisan basis?
I believe there is. The best test case we have for that was the vote on Staff Accounting Bulletin 121. It's a very obscure accounting provision that the SEC is using against digital asset industries in the custody and lending space. Consequently, we ran a bill called the Congressional Review Act that would require the SEC to go through rulemaking instead of to use the staff accounting bulletin methodology that allows for no public participation. Now, the surprise thing about the Congressional Review Act on SAB 121 is it passed both houses, got to the president's desk, and he had to veto it. So that was the very first vote that we'd had in both houses of Congress where we have a list of who voted which way on a crypto-related bill. And I think that gives us a roadmap on who is inclined to listen to the point of view of this industry, who maybe we need to spend more time with to help them understand its merits and the importance of having the United States be the beachhead for this transformative industry. And so because of SAB 121, beating the 60 vote threshold to get a vote in the Senate, then passing the Senate and the House, I'm pretty optimistic that this is going to be bipartisan.
Oh, that's great. And then in terms of a path forward on the legislation, as I mentioned, you were one of the earliest leaders in this space, and you put forward with Senator Sinema and then Senator Gillibrand the most comprehensive bill in the space, which would include stable coins, all digital assets, a bunch of different things. And you've been very open about the fact that we want to get this out there and then get the best ideas going forward. There's been some other bills that have moved forward. You've done it on a bipartisan basis. One of the more underappreciated things is you've done it in a way that gets two committees involved, both the Banking Committee and the Ag Committee, because they oversee the CFTC. And it's been a fantastic bill that others have gone forward on this. In the House, they decided to split stablecoins off from the digital asset market structure bill, the broader bill. And now you've got this, as you mentioned, the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Do you see this going forward in pieces, or do you see all these three things going forward as one comprehensive bill?
At this point, I see them going forward in pieces. I think there still remains an opportunity to get the overall framework for digital assets passed in the lame duck. And I'm going to be working to that end as soon as we return to work next week. So that would provide us the basis for determining what is the commodity, what is the security, move the commodities portion through the Senate Ag Committee, and then get it to the floor where we can amend on the more securities related component of that bill. And then hopefully we can also add in the stablecoins work. Senator Gillibrand and I had put out our stablecoin ideas early on in bill form, and we were waiting on the House that was struggling to negotiate an agreement between McHenry and Waters on how they wanted to move that bill forward. I think that there's an opportunity to get this all done, and meaning stablecoin, securities, commodities, as the framework for digital assets in the lame duck. Now, I'm a Pollyanna. I always think the glass is half full. So I give you that caveat. But then there's no shot for the Bitcoin strategic reserve until President Trump is president. And having him actually announce his support for that and then reiterate his support during the campaign is indicative of the positive prospects of getting that done during 2025 and begin now to create that strategic reserve. We can start easily by converting the Bitcoin the U.S. already holds, over 200,000 Bitcoin that it holds in the asset forfeiture portfolio, and keeping it in Bitcoin rather than the current administration that has been selling it. So there's tremendous opportunities as soon as January 20th comes and goes and President Trump takes office.
Yes, let me follow up on the strategic Bitcoin reserves. There's a lot of folks here in the room that have been asking questions about this. So first of all, how did you come up with this idea? And you mentioned it's important to keeping the U.S. dollars, the reserve currency of the world. Hey, can you make that link for us? And let me end there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to explain. I've spent my whole life in and out of government offices. I was Wyoming State Treasurer for 8 years, always looking for a bedrock store of value and always concerned about the United States national debt. And whether we were putting our own fiat currency, the US dollar, at risk by driving our national debt higher and higher. So piecing together the stability, the fact that Bitcoin really is digital gold, and then using it to undergird the U.S. dollar. And there are a lot of thought leaders within the Bitcoin space that were sort of coming to the same conclusion at the same time. And so it all kind of culminated last summer. And then I had drafted the bill, sent it to President Trump's people, and was actually surprised when he announced his support for Bitcoin strategic stockpile at Bitcoin 2024. And it was fun to be there when he announced it because he spoke before I did, and I spoke right after he did at Bitcoin 2024. And I had the bill with me and did not know that before I spoke that he was going to make that announcement. So, and he's doubled down on that. He has people around him who have made the connection between Bitcoin and undergirding the U.S. dollar. He's listening to people like Howard Lutnick, who is co-chairing his transition team and who is a proponent of digital assets. The list goes on. His children are opponents, and of course they're great advisors to him. People like Kash Patel, the efforts that I've made with my team, and a lot of Michael Saylor's been very influential. RFK has been very influential on this subject. So it's been the aggregation and culmination of people who have been thinking about this for a long time, sort of coming to the same conclusion at the same time, and then bringing it forward. And it's kind of serendipitous, but I think in a way that it's just meant to be.
Oh, people here are so excited and optimistic about it, and you just increased the level of optimism on this. So that's fantastic. Let me follow up with, you mentioned AI earlier, and you said, I think, if I wrote this down correctly, 9 different bills on artificial intelligence, even though we don't know exactly what it is. I heard a statistic from someone recently. The European Union is even worse. They have, I believe, 85 different pieces of someone told me, of legislation, potential regulation, regulating AI. We know they're going to over-regulate, and that's going to be a problem, and we need to figure out how to get this right. The other thing you said was, in saying, President Trump, got the connection between the strategic Bitcoin reserve and the U.S. dollar. as the reserve currency, right? Making connections is something else you've been also very good at. We tend to talk about blockchain and AI as separate pieces, but I've heard you talk about how artificial intelligence and blockchain together are going to create all sorts of new types of innovation in the future, and we need to think about how we set up a system for that. Can you talk a little bit about the connection between those two?
Yeah, I've been taking a deep dive into that recently. I had the great luxury of not being on the ballot this year. And so, yes, I spent a considerable amount of time in October campaigning for my Senate colleagues and new members. But I also spent a considerable amount of time diving into artificial intelligence. I spent 4 days in Silicon Valley immersed in visiting everything from the very largest companies to the smallest that are innovative in artificial intelligence. I rode in a driverless car. I worked with the people who were bringing new innovations to Zoom, to our ability to communicate in 3 dimensions as opposed to the two we're in right now. It was a game changer. The glasses where you can see your Google Maps. Essentially, you don't even have to look down at a monitor because the directions on where to turn are right mounted in your glasses. And a lot of dives into artificial intelligence. Then last week I was in Austin spending some time with some people who are working on large language models that are going to be very specific to our ability to gather information that's going to be useful to our defense capabilities. And additionally, AI is related to defense. These are going to take different legislative approaches, but it's certainly true that if you can't explain what a large language model is, you've got no business legislating about it. That's my theory. And so, one of the things I want to do in this coming Congress is, as you know, Kirsten Gillibrand and I, and along with Kirsten Sinema, had worked on a digital assets leadership school. Basically, we would bring in staffers every Monday, and it was a caucus. We called it the Digital Innovation Financial Innovation Caucus. And we would bring staffers in and have these fabulous speakers to come in and talk to people about digital assets so we could help increase the knowledge base within the staffer community on Capitol Hill. I'd like to do the same thing now going forward with regard to artificial intelligence, because there are people that are willing to help us understand areas that are ripe for legislation to prevent harm to young people through the use of artificial intelligence on social media, for example, but where we need to be careful about over-regulating before innovation can occur. We have to have innovation embed in the US. It's absolutely critical because we know that artificial intelligence is as big or bigger than the internet itself. And so this is a space where taking a deeper dive into informing and educating ourselves as members of Congress before we legislate is going to be the imperative. So I intend to put together an AI caucus once again to take that deeper dive and to start educating senators, House members, and their staff on this subject. And I'm so grateful that I got to spend all the time with the innovators, both in Palo Alto, San Francisco, San Jose, and then down in Austin to get some my own ability to begin to understand this from a policy perspective up on par with where it needs to be.
Thank you for that. We're just about out of time, but I want to reiterate something you mentioned earlier: your willingness to learn, your willingness to go out and meet people where they are. For the folks in the room here that are not familiar with Washington, D.C., Senator Lummis and her staff are the most open in terms of wanting to hear from the experts who know things, details and everything. So I encourage all of you to reach out to your members of Congress. These are a lot of issues that they don't have the technical expertise in. So your ability to go there and talk to them and explain this to them does have incredible impact on whether Congress moves forward or doesn't move forward on particular things. With that, we'll end it here. Senator Lummis, thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you so much for your willingness to learn and get into the weeds. Thank you so much for your energy, and thank you so much for your optimism going forward. Thank you.
Thank you all. Keep innovating and keep us informed so we don't get in your way. You need you to run like you're a brilliant American innovative spirit. Thanks. Thanks for letting me be with you.